kids. Welcome to another edition of After Hours. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about forming a grateful soul. On Sunday we looked at what I called Thanksgiving rest and the importance of rest as opposed to being restless. And gratitude is a big part of what it means to receive the rest of God. And I'm not even just speaking about discrete acts of thankfulness, though those are important in what we're going to be talking about, but rather having a soul that is shaped by gratitude so that our go-to is gratitude rather than being ingratitude, that we would lean towards rest rather than restlessness. So I wanted to talk about that for just a couple of moments here. And there's really two parts in doing this that I think are important for us to do, and that is, biblically, we're always called to put off one thing and then put on another thing. And so first let's talk about some putting off things that produce a restless dissatisfaction. And there are several things I think that are prevalent in our culture that tend towards this. Number one is modern advertising. It exists specifically to make us discontent. It exists to promote ingratitude. It exists to make us restless rather than at rest. That's its entire reason for being. You're not going to see any advertisements coming up and saying you probably don't need this. Really make sure it's something that you would want. Rather, what they're going to do is say, you need this. You must have this. If you don't have this, you are lacking. You are being left behind. You are missing out. And so advertising that is all around us, it's impossible to escape. It exists to make us discontented and to form an ungrateful soul. A second thing that we have to be aware of and try and limit or put off is that most news is built on discontentedness and anger. The old adage is bad news travels faster than good news, and it's true. And what sells newspapers, major media, and that's true whether it is you're watching it on TV or cable, or even if you get your news from a different source. What sells is discontentedness, bad news, anger. That's what they put out there because that's what keeps the money coming in to them. A third thing is social media. Social media is full of anger, and it's also been shown to lead to what's known as FOMO, a fear of missing out. Rather than just celebrating with other people, it tends to make in us a sense that we are not enjoying what other people have. And even when we are off and we're on a dream vacation, so to speak, we're looking at what other people are doing and we're thinking, oh, I would rather be there. They've actually shown that people have spent time on vacation looking and thinking and feeling like they were missing out what was going on back home. Even though this was the vacation they'd planned for years, they now miss out on what their friends are doing back home. That's what social media tends to lead to, which again is the opposite of gratitude. It is rather a restless discontentedness. Some entertainment is built upon that, a distorted view of reality that makes it hard to be grateful. We see how beautiful their houses are, how great their lives seem to be, how they seem to have all of these things, which in reality most people don't have. The joke was about the TV show Friends a few years ago that several of them seemed to have very minor jobs, and yet they lived in these massive apartments in New York that would have actually cost a fortune to be in. But apparently you can do that because that's how TV and entertainment seems to work. And then finally, there's another thing, which is some people can really be the kind of people that focus on what is negative, what is wrong. Saturday Night Live had a skit years ago that was a character was referred to as Debbie Downer. And she would, no matter how good things were, she would point out what was bad. And then there would be this, wah, wah, wah sound where she would kind of frown. And the cast was cracking up because she was such a downer. It didn't matter what was going on. She could bring the mood down. There are people, unfortunately, who tend to be like that. And in all of these areas, we may need to look and say, how do I restrict these things, or how do I avoid these things? I, for years, for Lent, have actually just cut out social media, sometimes cut out all TV and media type stuff, restricting all virtually entertainment, social media, news, modern advertising. And it's amazing how it can lead to a much more grateful soul. Maybe that's the thing you do. Maybe it's somebody that you're around and you notice they're bringing you down, you have to restrict. But the first thing is to put off, to try and restrict those things. Secondly, in building a grateful soul, we need to put on. There are practices that actually help us build gratitude. Number one, I want to encourage you to do regularly is remind yourself of the gospel. Whatever else is going on in life, whatever you have or don't have, you are a child of God. You have been loved by God from before the foundation of the world. Christ has redeemed you and brought you to himself. You are blessed. That's not just something we say at the end of every meeting. It is a deep reality that needs to shape who you are. Secondly, it would be good for us to focus on the present rather than the future. There's a time and a place to focus on the future, but we can be so busy worrying about the future, looking off to the future, thinking about the way things are going to be, that we are missing the joy of where we are right now. And again, our culture wants to get us to focus on those things, but we ought to enjoy where we are right now. Another practice is just building margin into your day and your week so that you can slow down, notice, and give thanks for the small things in your life or for the people in your life. There's the old thing, stop and smell the roses. But you can't be grateful for the smell of roses if you don't have time to actually stop and smell them. So try to build a little margin in your day where you get to slow down and notice things that are going on around you and how joyful they can be. I recently reread the book Pilgrim at Tinker Creek, and one of the amazing things was just how much detail she noticed sitting beside a creek bed throughout this year, things that we all pass by but don't take time to notice. We should slow down and notice them and give thanks to God. One specific area where we can do that and we can build a little margin is in America, we very often just inhale our food and our drink. We shouldn't do this. We should take time to savor the gift of food and drink. What a joy it is that God has made it so enjoyable, the food that we get to eat and drink and prepare. And I encourage you to take time. Obviously, we're coming up on Thanksgiving. Don't just inhale the meal. Take time to savor how good it is. And then we should do that as well, along with giving thanks to God. As you sit down at Thanksgiving and each and every day, take time to verbally give thanks to God for your food and drink before every meal. Just to slow down for just a moment and say, God, I am thankful for what you give to me. And as well, when that leads into prayer, even when you're praying about other people, maybe there's a Debbie Downer in your life. Maybe there's somebody that's causing a lot of stress and difficulty. But take time to give thanks to God for good things in them. There are good things in every person we are praying for. And I encourage you, slow down and take the time to try and do that. It'll be helpful. If we'll take the time to kind of reduce those negative things and to accentuate and build more in the positive, it can help us form a grateful soul. And brothers and sisters, what we find out then is we enjoy the rest for which God has designed us. I hope you have a great week. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And then I look forward to us gathering again this Sunday as we begin going through the first songs of Christmas here in our Advent celebration. I encourage you, bring a friend, come to hear the gospel and rehearse it. Come early, enjoy worshiping, and then stay late to fellowship with your brothers and sisters. I hope you have a great week. God bless.